Hey everybody, here is today's Project 1019 update. If you are unfamiliar with Project 1019, please go to crossencountersmin.com. You will either find the main article for the project on the homepage of the website, or just go to the search window and type in Project 10-19, 10-19. This morning, I was hoping to get to two stations today, the Palmdale Sheriff's Station and the Lancaster Sheriff's Station, both, of course, with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. They are the two northernmost patrol stations in Los Angeles County. But due to the scheduling, I was only able to get to one today. I went to Palmdale Station this morning, and the Lord really did bless the time. The station is situated on a major street called Sierra Highway in the city of Palmdale, but in a section of Sierra Highway that sees a good amount of traffic, but not as much as maybe more towards the center of the city. It's right on the corner of Sierra Highway and a side street. The side street is relatively small. There's a park across the street from the station. There's a few homes across the side street from the station. So there's not a lot going on in that particular corner. So as I got started, things were kind of slow, and I kind of expected that. Because I got up there pretty early. I was up there by 8 o'clock. I was there, 7 o'clock. I was there at 7 a.m. I was there from 7 to 9. But as the Lord has done with the first two stations, station number 3, Palmdale Station, proved to be a wonderful, wonderful time of ministry. Shortly after I arrived, the watch commander came out, a sweet lady, came out and to thank me for being there outside the station, and of course she received a Police Lives Matter gospel tract. I explained to her that I was a retired deputy sheriff and that I was going to try to spend time outside of all 98 patrol stations, which encompass the LA County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles Police Department, California Highway Patrol, and a host of municipalities, city departments throughout the county. And she gave me a fist bump for that, and wished me well, asked me if I wanted any water or anything, and so I said, well, sure, if you'd like to give me some water, that'd be great. And so she went back into the station. A short time later, a young deputy sheriff came out. Wow, he was probably just a little older than Amanda, my youngest daughter, who was 21. Looked like a young man, certainly not any older than his mid-20s. Came out with a cold bottle of water and a cold bottle of Gatorade, thanked me. Of course, he got a Police Lives Matter tract. He walked back inside, and then he came back out again a couple minutes later, and he said, oh, I just, can you tell me your last name? Because I introduced myself as Tony, and so I gave him my last name. I'm not sure what they wanted that for, but and he just wanted to reiterate on behalf of the watch commander that she was very grateful that I was out there. So, so 2 tracts went out that way, and that was a real blessing. Something that happened out there that happened more this morning than at the first 2 stations were deputies stopping along the curb to shake my hand, to thank me for being there. Of course, everyone who stopped got Police Lives Matter tracts, and there must have been 3 or 4 2-man units that stopped to shake my hand, to say thank you. And they all got tracts. A number of other units making their way in and out of the station and to and from calls, waved, of course, honked, and so that was really wonderful. As expected, there was a little more heckling outside of Palmdale Station. A few people shouted their displeasure with me being there supporting law enforcement. Someone yelled, "All lives matter." Of course, me holding a sign saying that law enforcement lives matter in no way negates the fact that all lives do matter. I simply do not want people to forget that there is a very important subculture in our society known as the law enforcement community whose lives matter just as much as every other group of people. So there was a little more heckling up there, and again, as I move further south into LA City and areas like that, I expect that to increase even more. But I'm happy to report that people of basically every people group, Asian, Hispanic, white, black, gave thumbs up, waved, honked their horns. And so if anyone from Palmdale Station happens to watch this, know that there are people in your community from every people group in your community who do appreciate you. And they showed that by honking their horns and waving and what have you. One young African-American mom, and I say mom because she had two little boys in her car, pulled up to the light. The light was red. She stopped. She looked at the sign for a few seconds, and then gave me a thumbs up and thanked me for being there. And I said, "God bless you," and she returned, that gesture as well. And the little boys were looking at the sign, and I said to the little boys, I said, "Boys, honor your mother, obey your mother, love your mother. It's very, very important." And Mom appreciated that, and the boys said, "Yes, sir." And the mom said, "We'll tell him thank you." And both the boys said thank you, and that was a very sweet and tender moment. There was too much traffic to really go out, run out in the street, give her a tract. I wish I could have done that, but she saw the sign, saw the website, saw the scripture verses, hopefully long enough to be able to remember those. So that was a really touching moment for me. Shortly before I left, about 20 minutes before I left, two dispatchers came out. Now, the LA County Sheriff's Department uniform is tan and green, tan shirt, green pants. Most of the dispatchers wear a blue uniform, light blue shirt, dark blue pants. There are other assignments throughout the department, civilian assignments throughout the department that wear that color uniform as well. But these ladies came out from the front desk. I'm assuming they're dispatchers. They came out with a little styrofoam cup. And inside the styrofoam cup were a bunch of peppermint candies. And they both, they were very sweet. They wanted to thank me for being there, and almost with a motherly tone, they're both younger than me, but almost with a motherly tone, they both said, "And we're watching you. We're watching out for you. We're making sure you're okay while you're out here." And that was really sweet. And I think this is a good opportunity to let people know who may not be familiar with the law enforcement family, just how important dispatchers are to patrol officers. While they don't carry a gun per se, while they are civilian support staff for the sworn personnel, the dispatchers are every bit as much a part of the law enforcement family as those who are out there pushing a radio car, working a radio car. And a good dispatcher, really, without exaggerating, can really be the difference between life and death for a patrol officer. Because that dispatcher is receiving information about the calls coming into the station, whether on the regular line or 911, and they're gathering information which is vital to an officer's safety as the officer response to a call, response to a business, a robbery had just occurred, a burglary in progress, a burglary in progress at a home, a domestic violence call, you name it. And the first ones to hear that there is a problem and the first ones to receive information are the dispatchers. You know, if I got a call of a domestic dispute, one of the first things I want to know as I'm rolling into that house is if there are any weapons in that house. And so the dispatchers are diligent to ask those kind of important questions. If units are rolling code 3, lights and siren, either to a hot call, or to give assistance to an officer in need or something like that, you have the officer on the radio coordinating the call, calling people in. You have the dispatchers listening to that. You have the dispatcher who's also talking to either the watch commander or the watch sergeant, who's right there listening to the radio as that request for assistance comes out. And so the watch commander is telling the dispatcher, tell the deputies I want this or I want that, who's authorized code 3, who's not authorized code 3, where people are coming from, and what have you, updating as information is coming in over the phone on a hot call, updating the deputies, officers who are on their way. That's a high pressure, high stress, vitally important position, dispatcher. And I've known a lot of good dispatchers, guys and girls, but a lot of good ones. One who comes to mind is a lady who would become a good friend. I haven't seen her in many years, but her name was Terry. And Terry, before coming to our station and serving as a dispatcher and in other capacities, Terry was a dispatcher out of Central Dispatch down in East LA. Any type of code 3 role, any type of 1033 request for assistance, those would be any type of voiced call. The voice you would hear on the main channel on the radio would be a voice from Central Dispatch. Now, if we were on our tactical frequency, we would be speaking directly with the desk. If we requested what was called the patch, which opened us up area-wide for our particular channel, and then we might be able to hear the voice of our dispatcher or the watch deputy or what have you. But usually, if it was a situation where the call is being voiced and information is being given to us, that would come from the Central Dispatch unit. And I mention that because I want to share a brief story with you, just how important on one particular night and how really comforting it was to have a dispatcher on the radio. It was the early morning hours. I was working a one-man traffic unit focused primarily on DUI enforcement, but I also handled any kind of traffic-related incident, particularly accidents, crashes, what have you. And a call came out, and it came out from Central Dispatch because it was a code 3 call, lights and siren, of a traffic collision that just occurred, single car traffic collision. The car apparently ran into one of the center pylons holding up a freeway overpass. You know how large those things are, right? They are several feet around, solid concrete, rebar, reinforced. They're holding up a freeway. All right, these things just don't fall down. And so I was the closest unit. We have very few units that time of night, fewer units that time of night working patrol because all the businesses are closed. It's just good guys and bad guys out on the streets primarily, or people getting home late from work or something like that. But very, very little normal people kind of traffic, general citizen traffic on the roads, and there aren't as many calls for service. When we get calls for service in the middle of the night, they were usually not very good calls. Excuse me. And so I was the closest unit and the only unit available to respond. Other units were either on important calls and couldn't break away, or they were booking suspects at the station. And so I was it. And I would have been assigned it anyways, because I think I was the only traffic unit on that night. We usually would have two, one for the east side of the city, one for the west side of the city. But there were some nights, due to staffing, we would only have one traffic car. And I was rolling from the west end of town, and this was about as far east in the city as you could get, driving normal speeds, probably a 10 minute drive, 15-minute drive or so. But rolling code, the speed limit doesn't apply. So I'm racing over to that side of town, lights and siren, and as I'm rolling, the call is being updated by the dispatcher. Flames are now being seen. Car is on fire. Car is fully engulfed. And I'm getting there as soon as I can. I'm getting there as fast as I can. Of course, the dispatchers now are sending fire. They don't even wait for me to ask. They know I'm going to ask for fire to respond, because now there's a fire in the car. And so they were on top of that, already getting fire out there. By the time I arrived, the car was fully engulfed in flames. I could tell by the vehicle debris strewn all over the road that this car hit this freeway overcrossing at a very high rate of speed. I estimated that the engine block, which had been completely removed from the car, was a good 200 feet away from the point of impact. So this was a horrendous crash. And so I get on dispatch. I explain the car is fully engulfed. I tell them that I'm grabbing my fire extinguisher. What is that really going to do? But I was able to knock down the flames a little bit, but only enough to reveal that a person had lost their life in the car. And that was a difficult moment. And the dispatcher could hear it in my voice. And Terry stayed on the radio with me for an extensive period of time. As other units rolled, CHP rolled, it would end up being their jurisdiction, fire, and what have you. And I didn't know this was Terry. And we didn't know each other at the time. But it was a great comfort to me to know that there was someone on the other end of the radio listening. Someone on the other end of the radio helping me out. And years later, Terry would come to our station, would be assigned to our station, and she remembered that night as well. And she said she remembered that I sounded so lonely and so down after I had knocked the flames down in the car and saw what I saw, that her heart really went out to me. And I share that with you, not to, get any sympathy or anything like that. I share that to you to tell you how important dispatchers are, and what a huge amount of stress dispatchers are under when they're handling those real life and death situations over a phone. They've got to keep their cool. They've got to be professional. They've got to gather information. They got to disseminate that information, all in matters of seconds or split seconds sometime. And so I was so blessed and so thankful that those two dispatchers came out of the station to bring me a little cup of mints and to shake my hand and introduce themselves. And so they both got Police Lives Matter gospel tracts, and it was just a really blessed couple of hours out there. And I know I was hoping to make this a little shorter, but I really wanted to share that story with you, and I really wanted to talk to you about dispatchers. But pray for Palmdale Station. It is known in our department, in the Sheriff's Department, as what we call a fast station. Which means there's a higher crime rate, high volume of calls, high volume of priority calls. These deputies are going non-stop, 8, 10, 12 hours a day from call to call. Rarely any time to eat or, rest or do anything, because it is a fast station. There's a lot going on. Lancaster Station is the same way. I hope to get to Lancaster Station tomorrow, schedule permitting. But pray for Palmdale Station. I could tell that the deputies really appreciated me being up there. In fact, the dispatcher said, "Wow, we're really sorry to see you out here all by yourself. We wish there were more people out here." And that's when I said to him, "Well, look, I've been out here for a couple of hours, and I can assure you that people from all walks of life have been driving by, giving a thumbs up, waving, honking their horn. So there's a lot of people out here who do appreciate you." And that touched them. They appreciated that. So pray for Palmdale Station, pray for Project 1019, and hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to give you a report after my visit to Lancaster Sheriff Station in Lancaster, California. God bless, and have a great day.